back then, my idea was I just wanted to be a brewer. Not necessarily a business owner, but I just wanted to be a brewer. And as life took its course, I had trouble getting a job in a brewery and was in school kind of studying business. Decided that maybe the way to do it would just be to start my own business.
Hey all, I'm Amanda here, and welcome to entry 55 of Great Beer Adventure. I hope the week has found you well. Were you able to push further into your own beer adventures? Perhaps you tried a new beer or visited a new brewery. Maybe you went with your old standby favorites but learned something new? This week, we look at collaborating as a brewery. I love when people work together and each bring their expertise to the table. Here in Maine, a lot of breweries collaborate with other breweries as well as various other people from around the state. I sat down with Terry and Eric from Liquid Riot to chat more about it. I also learned about and tried a beverage I never even knew existed. Join me as I sit down in the brewery with Eric and Terry. I am sitting in the brewery space at Liquid Riot, and we have a very exciting show for you today. This is our first show post our 1-year anniversary, which we're doing in our long form, which I'm super excited to be doing this one. We have actually, Terry from Liquid Riot, we have been emailing and trying to set this up for how many months now?
Oh, a long time. Probably almost a year.
Yeah, it seems like a year. So what better way to kick off the new year of our show than actually making it happen? Making it happen, yeah. So during round one, we are going to let you gentlemen, because Terry, you're not the only one at the table. Eric is also sitting here with us. You guys, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Liquid Riot.
I'm Terry Peterson. I work here in the brewery and distillery. Started as a server, bartender when we opened. Slowly pushed my way to the back of the house and started making stuff. We, on our 10-barrel brew house, we have 3 conicals. We're upgrading to 3 larger tanks pretty soon, which is pretty exciting for us. Really exciting.
And I'm Eric Michaud, the founder and owner of Liquid Riot, as well as Novaria Res. We opened Novaria Res. We just celebrated our 8-year anniversary this past Saturday, May 21st. Pretty amazing to be 8 years in this town and in this business. And I opened Liquid Riot just a little over 3 years ago. And kind of the next step from buying and selling everybody else's beer to making our own, not just our own beer, but our own booze as well. It's pretty fun. And I do want to point out that Terry didn't start as a bartender. He started as a hired laborer, and he actually helped build this place too. So he's been here before the start of the start.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So you did mention that you owned Novaria, and that was open for 5 years longer than here. What kind of help made you decide you wanted to open up not just a brewery, but also a distillery all at the same time?
Yeah, so I got into beer. My real passion started for beer as a home brewer. Started home brewing just out of high school in my parents' kitchen in Yarmouth, where I grew up. And just from creating homebrew recipes, just wanted to taste everything I could, everything that was out there, just to try to figure out the different flavor profiles and adjust my palate and try to create new recipes. So I guess back then my idea was I just wanted to be a brewer. Not necessarily a business owner, but I just wanted to be a brewer. And as life took its course, I had trouble getting a job in a brewery and was in school kind of studying business. Decided that maybe the way to do it would just be to start my own business. And got involved in bartending and the bar scene, and realized that it was pretty expensive to open a production facility. So it was a little easier to enter the market as a bar owner. Just the cost of starting out is a little lower, and it still fulfilled some of that passion for being involved in the beer business and being able to have access to these beers. So Novari Res was kind of a stepping stone to the ultimate goal of still being able to produce my stuff. Because ultimately, I really enjoy the creative aspect of it. I enjoy writing recipes and brewing and that production side of it. So just having Novari Res is fun. It's great, and the camaraderie is amazing, and the beers are amazing. But it still lacked that creative outlet for me. So once Novari Res really took off and it was stable and steady, and I was able to work on another plan, it was Liquid Riot. And as far as the distillery side goes, I just felt like if you can brew something, if you can ferment something, you can also distill it. So it's just kind of a logical next step.
It really offers an interesting place to come because there's so much house-made stuff here. Is it completely 100% house-made alcohol?
We carry a lot of stuff on the bar that's not ours. We do have 12 of our own spirits, so we have a pretty wide variety. That was kind of the goal, I think, opening up the distillery side, was to be able to have a bar that was fully sustainable with our spirits and our beer. All of our beer taps are our beer. We do carry a cider, but no other brewery's beer.
You had mentioned, Eric, about wanting to taste everything. There is a chalice program up in Navarre. Does that tie into your wanting to taste everything? Because it's intense. Your chalice program is intense.
Yeah, it definitely does. The idea of the chalice program, the uprising we call it, kind of plays into my goal in my travels to try to taste as much as possible and educate my palate and really learn what's out there. So the uprising is about an education for the consumer, for their palate. And a lot of drinkers now are different, but 8 years ago when we started, I found a lot of customers they knew what they liked, or they thought they knew what they liked, and that's all they drank. They were very loyal to one or two brands, maybe one or two styles, and that's all they wanted because they knew they liked it, they were comfortable. And I really wanted to shake it up and kind of get people out of their comfort zone. And people like a challenge, and they really step up to the challenge. And it was amazing how many people signed up for that, and still do. We've got hundreds of people that have received their chalice, and thousands of people working towards it. But yeah, the idea is to force people to try these things that they probably never would.
I like the use of the word force.
It's a forced thing because you're not going to get that chalice, and that's the goal. So people are drinking beers. People are drinking bitter IPAs that maybe they only liked sweet stouts. They're drinking sour beers. They're drinking lambics when maybe they only wanted a brown ale. And it really forces them to get through a number of different beers across the spectrum, beers that I hand chose because I feel like they're, to what's available to us in Maine, they're the best representative of these certain styles. So I feel like once you've consumed everything on that list, you should have a better understanding of all the different styles out there, or a really good understanding. And you'll have educated your palate. You'll know what you like, what you don't like. And a lot of people find that they're surprised that they end up falling in love with beers that they never thought they would ever like, or that they'd never heard of. And it can change their whole drinking experience and their whole drinking life for the foreseeable future. I know there are definitely people who are hooked on certain styles of beers that a lot of people would never have thought to drink.
I've thought about joining the uprising a number of times. I've just been really nervous by it's huge. It's very intimidating. And now that I have kids, I don't get out enough. And you probably hear, listeners, a child running around in the background. Not mine, which you've heard her in the background of others. But we've got Terry's little girl here.
Tagging along, hanging out in the brewery as she does most weeks, at least once.
Brewery kids, right? It's a thing. It's a real thing.
Yeah. It's the next generation, right?
Right, exactly. You got to teach them young. So you guys have brought along some tasty provisions for our entry into this beer adventure. We're going to be looking at collaboration. But before we get to that, tell us a little bit about what we're drinking.
Right now, I'm drinking a Head Stash IPA. It's actually we're calling the Head Stash variant. But our Head Stash started out as a collaboration with Oxbow Brewing. And it was one of the first few batches that we made in our first year, I believe. And the guys from Oxbow came in and kind of rated our stash of hops. And they wanted to use the headiest, dankest hops that we had in our cooler. And and our brewer Greg is good buddies with them, and he allowed that to happen. And I actually wasn't here at the time, and when I came in that day and saw the amount of hops, the ludicrous amount of hops that they were putting in this beer, I was thinking that's like 3 or 4 batches of beer right there that we could be making, but let's chuck it all in. And it turned out to just be an awesome recipe, and we've since brewed it a number of times. It's one of our more flagship beers, I guess, if you will. And the beer I'm drinking right now is just a little tweak that we've tried with using a different yeast strain in it, just to see how it is. It's delicious. I love it. And Terry is drinking Bobo Pivo, which I'll let him talk about.
So the Bobo Pivo is another collaboration, but not with a brewery. It's actually a collaboration with Navarre Res. So we started a house, beer day cafe series where we're brewing beer with them. We talk over recipes and we talk about styles that would be good for certain types of times of the year. So we went with a really traditional straight up Pilsner, all Pilsner malt, all Saaz hops. It's a nice, crisp, perfect summer beer, zesty. So another collab. Not with a brewery, but still a collab all the same. Everyone comes in on brew day and, grains in, grains out. Everyone's weighing hops and having a good time drinking beers. And
That sounds like that might be the best part of the collab, is that everybody gets together and they're really hanging out and drinking beers.
That's pretty much the whole collab day, yeah. It's like too many cooks in the kitchen. You can only fit so many brewers on the brew platform.
But it's really leading up to the collab day that is amazing, because generally what I've found is a lot of these collaborations start out at a bar somewhere, some drunken evening, where you get a group of like-minded people together and you start saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? Have you guys ever made this? Have you ever tried this? And then you say, well, let's do it. Let's try to do this together. And then you create this recipe this drunken night. And then brew day comes around.
That sounds like trouble.
It can be trouble. In fact, we brewed a beer. One of the first collaborations we did was with Urbane from Destrisa in Belgium, and the beer is Sour Trouble. And he had this idea, and we were emailing recipe ideas back and forth, and he flew over, and we made this sour beer, and we didn't know our systems right, and he didn't know our systems because it was new, and we ended up getting a stuck mash, and I think the runoff took like 6 to 7 hours or something like that, and we were here until I want to say 4 a.m. We ended up just drinking absinthe.
Oh no!
For like 4 hours straight while we're waiting for this runoff. And so, but we aptly called it Sour Trouble. So yeah, it can be trouble planning these things and actually having them come to fruition. But that again was another one of our awesome collaborations, and we keep brewing that now. We have got it in 12-ounce 6-packs, similar to the Head Stash. So sometimes these collaborations really work, and you can gain a lot of knowledge collaborating, especially with other brewers that have experience, because what you can learn from them is stuff that they've learned over a number of years. So in a day, just one day brewing with these guys, you can learn a year's worth of experience, so just some of the techniques that they have and experiences that they have, and but you can also teach them. So like that day when we were brewing Sour Trouble and got that stuck mash, I think Urbane learned something from it, and he's a well-oiled machine. I mean, he's been around, he knows his stuff, but he saw something here and he experienced some trouble, and and he's growing from it, and we definitely gained something from that too. So it's really amazing. It's really fun to do these things, and just the knowledge that's shared is incredible.
Do you guys have any? So we're very much into the part where we're just talking about collaboration, and you're going to guide us through this. I'm obviously going to have questions, but if there's something that you feel like I should know, stop me and tell me what I need to know. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
So my question is there anybody out there that you've got this idea you want to work with them and it just hasn't happened yet? Is there anybody on your list?
I don't know. I mean, like Eric said, the opportunity kind of presents itself when it does. We work with a lot of different people over the last few years, friends and new friends and old friends, and just it's a really, really cool part of the industry. Everyone's really collaborative in that way of willing to share ideas and willing to share experience, which is really unique, I think, to our industry. It's really, really awesome.
Do you think it's across the industry? Do you think every place that you go to, beer industries like that, do you think everybody's collaborating? like in other states and other countries?
I really couldn't say. I mean, I would hope so. I'm sure there's people out there that are like, no way, this is my brewery, this is my recipes. Like, I'm sure there is. There's always someone like that. But I think the general vibe is definitely open arms.
I would say it's fair to say that in North America, to the U.S. and Canada. I think that's just the culture of the craft beer movement in North America and how it's been cultivated. And it's been that way from the start, and so it's continuing. And I think that's what really turns younger brewers on. I know it's what really turned me on to getting into this scene was just the camaraderie of it and the collaborative aspect to it. I know in my experience in other countries, in Europe, especially where they have a longer tradition and older tradition, I feel like they're a little more secretive maybe, but that's starting to change too. And I'm starting to get to know some of the younger brewers, and they're really emulating what North America is doing, and now there's becoming such a small world, and people are traveling so much and becoming aware of other small craft breweries in other parts of the world, and they're really starting to reach out. I know the guys at Oxbow, Tim, the head brewer, he was just recently over in Japan and collaborating with some Japanese brewers over there, and it's pretty amazing to hear about that and see that experience. Yeah. And some of my favorite brewers I've talked to and we've collaborated with, like the guys from Strisa and the guys from De La Seine. And in fact, Yvon Debets from De La Seine has offered an invitation for us to go over there and brew with him sometime. So he said next time we're over in Brussels, we get to do a collaboration at his place. And that, that to me is one of the greatest honors. He's one of my favorite brewers, and he's definitely been a huge inspiration to me. And the De La Seine beers are a huge inspiration for me. And so that's just, that's amazing. And that's going to happen. It will happen. I go over there often enough, and he's extended the invitation, and I'm definitely going to take him up on it.
Yeah. So you've kind of seem like a cool, composed kind of guy, Eric. Just kind of like, yeah, it seems like it's going to happen. Do you get geeky? Because, I would be like, oh, my goodness, this is the coolest thing in the world. Like, do you ever get just geeky about the amazing things that are happening around you?
I think I do. I think sometimes I have a little bit of a facade of calmness. Inside, I definitely get excited. But, I've had a lot of really great experiences in my life, and I've seen a lot happen, and having these two businesses and seeing them grow, and it's really humbled me. And I try not to take anything for granted. I also have two kids. I've got two young daughters, and they really put things into perspective for me, and just bringing life into the world, and that humbling experience of knowing that life can leave this world. And I try not to get overly excited about too much because there can be disappointment there. But yeah, I mean, this is my dream. I'm living the dream. I was a beer geek, trying to taste everything I could, going to as many breweries as I could, knocking on doors, trying to get jobs at breweries, and now I'm in it. Now I'm doing it. I used to go out to some of these big conferences, like the Craft Brewers Conference, and I'd look around. I remember the first one I ever went to. I'm standing around, I'm looking around, I'm seeing all the big name brewers. I'm like, Sam Calagione from Dogfish Head is there, and
all of them.
All of them. So, I mean, like the guys from Victory and the guys from Brooklyn and the guys from Stone and Sierra Nevada, and I'm walking right by them, and I was like starstruck. It's like I felt like I was at the Grammys or something, because in my world it was. And now I'm part of that. Now we just went out to Craft Brewers Conference, and people recognize me as a peer.
You guys won big out there, right?
We also won a gold medal at the World Beer Cup,
Congratulations, by the way.
Which is ridiculous. It's totally
You at
amazing.
least got geeky over that,
oh,
right?
Yeah. I was laughing my head off when we won that, because that was not expected, but totally humbling and so honored to win that. And that, that's the kind of thing. It's like I've watched these amazing brewers that I've always looked up to and just been blown away by their beers, and I've watched them get up on stage and shake Charlie Papazian's hand and take home that gold, and I just stand up and clap and cheer for them as loud as I can, and I just kind of dreamt that, like, maybe someday in a million years I'll be up there, and it happened within 3 years of being open, which
wow,
is pretty incredible. So yeah, I get excited.
Yeah. Okay, good. So there's a couple things that you mentioned. One, you said that a lot of these collaborations happen like over a beer. How did the ones across the country across the world get started? Were they here? Were you there? You know, you mentioned Destrusa and De La Seine. Were you over there? Were they here? Was it emails? Are you guys like Twitter besties? What's going on?
I actually just was forced to start using social media fairly recently because guys like Terry, younger guys, telling me that's the way of the future. I don't have a personal Facebook page, but no, I've traveled a lot. I've spent a lot of time abroad. And through my university studies, I was able to study overseas and travel to breweries and distilleries and be able to meet people along the way. And just through my experience through the industry, being able to meet brewers and keeping in touch with them and visiting them. But we were lucky. The first year we were open, the first summer we were open, the Shelton brothers held their festival here in Portland, Maine.
Yeah.
So they brought over all these brewers who I actually I knew most of them. Mm-hmm. Because through Novari Res and the beer bars that I had managed prior to that, I had visited a lot of them just to go say hi and see their facilities and get the experience of what they're doing and keeping in touch with them. So I was friendly with a lot of them, and they were all going to be here anyway. So I reached out to a number of them and just said, hey, you're here anyway. Let's do some collaboration brews. So we were able to work with, as I said, Urbain from Strisa, Yvonne from De La Seine, Carlos from Alice Agujon in Spain, and Cheto previously of Nugneo in Norway. And so we did these 4 amazing international collaboration brews.
In like a week?
Yeah, in a week. And it was, we had been open 4 months maybe.
Wow.
So talking about getting some experience from 4 amazing brewers with 4 really different backgrounds, running 4 really different breweries, and talking about all these different techniques and gaining all that firsthand knowledge right away. It's, you know, you can't put a price on that. And that's, like I said, it's collaboratively decades of experience that we are able to grasp all within a week.
It must have been an exhausting and amazing week.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. The festival itself was great, and then to have all these guys in the brewery, and we brewed a lot of really, really different beer between the 4 of them. Cheto, we brewed this like crazy Norwegian farmhouse smoked malt in house and lautered through juniper boughs, and we brewed that beer again once. But it was just a really cool old world Norwegian style beer, Sati style. So that was awesome. And just like Eric was saying, that the breadth of knowledge and the diversity of their backgrounds was amazing.
So you've mentioned that you've collabed with restaurants and with breweries. Are there any other folks that you've collabed with or plan on collabing with?
Well, coming up June 2nd, we're going to celebrate our 3rd year anniversary.
So it would have happened. We record ahead of time. So this is a July. So
this is in July, so it would have happened.
It would have happened.
So back in June, so previously in June's past, we have collaborated with distillers too. June 2nd is the anniversary of the Portland Rum Riot, and that Liquid Riot pulls its name from the Portland Rum Riot in 1855, June 2nd, 1855. And so we're going to celebrate our anniversary on that date because June 2nd of 2013 was the first day that we had all systems firing in this facility. We had the kitchen and the bar was open, so we were making food, making drinks. The brewery had been up and running. And June 2nd was the first day that we fired up the still. And we did a collaboration rum with the guys from Maine Craft Distilling and New England Distilling. So Luke and Ned are the other 2 Portland distilleries. They still are. So there's only 3 of us in Portland. There's a couple guys opening soon, so there'll be 5 of us. But as it is right now and previously, it's only been the 3 of us, and all 3 of us make rum. So we collaborated on, I guess it wasn't the first year that we collaborated, but they came in to help us fire up the still that first June. And then a year later, we did this collaboration rum. So we took all 3 of our dark rum recipes, kind of mashed them up together. And as far as I know, it's the first collaboration distilled spirit in Maine.
Wow.
I don't think any of the other distilleries have worked together to collaborate on that. And we've been distilling batches since. So this will be our 3rd year doing it. And next year will be the 4th year, and we'll finally release it next year. But we've been making batches each year, and we're aging them in a Solera style, which is a technique that a lot of sherry producers use. And there are a lot of rum producers in the Caribbean that do this as well. And what they'll do is they'll package a little bit out of a barrel and then top it up from another batch. And then that batch that they took from, they'll top up from another batch. So it's kind of like mixing and aging at the same time. And that's our plan for that. So the fourth year batch will come out and it'll be a blend of the first 3 years. And so that's just another extension of collaborations we can do. Furthermore, we just released a collaboration that we did with Sebago Brewing Company that we did through the distillery.
Yeah.
So we distilled some of Sebago's Bonfire Rye beer. We distilled it in a similar style to making a whiskey and aged it like a traditional American whiskey, 2 years in the barrel, and we just released it. And it's amazing. I mean,
I didn't realize it had been in a barrel for 2 years.
Yeah.
Wow, so this is a long time coming.
Yep. This is a committed relationship here.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is not a one-night stand.
No.
And we've been making more of it since as well.
Wow. I know that you went with yourself, Navarre, to Liquid Riot, but have you done any distillery to your beer? Is that a collaboration, or is that just...
We distill our own beer and make one of our spirits out of our own beer, but...
Are you asking if we brought our beer to another distillery?
No, I mean like within this one space. I don't know. There's so many things going on here. I have no idea what you're doing. I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
We're constantly collaborating with ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The brewers and
we
distillers
distill
get
our own
together,
beer
yeah.
for our beer schnapps program. And
Wait, your what?
beer schnapps?
What are beer schnapps?
Beer schnapps it's more traditional in southern Germany. You'll find in my travels, I found a lot of the small craft distilleries in southern Germany also have a small still. Mm-hmm. And, in fact, most of them have a restaurant and a guest house. And so you can go there and eat and drink and sleep and drink beer and drink booze, and all of it's made on premise. So that was a lot of my influence, was my travels through Germany. But anyway, beer schnapps is distilled beer. So I think what it is a lot of that old world thought of waste not, want not. And if you ever had some beer that got returned for some reason, maybe it was a little out of date or wasn't pouring right or whatever, or when you're transferring a batch, you get a little bit of sludge left over in the tank. Instead of dumping that down the drain, you can distill all that stuff. There's still alcohol in it. The alcohol is good. So you distill that beer out and you capture that alcohol, and it's Schnapps is a German word for alcohol. So it's not your American schnapps, which is that garbage, sugar, fruitiness.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's schnapps is alcohol. So you can have all different
beer
schnapps.
alcohol.
It's alcohol made from beer.
Is
yeah.
it stronger than beer?
It's
Yes.
proof like a whiskey.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
Does it taste like beer? Or does it...
I guess there's nuances. You get that kind of like herbally tone from the hops for sure. It definitely comes through. I get a nice like traditional beer grain maltiness out of it, which I think is cool. Kind of carries through slightly.
And what do you make drinks with it, or do you drink it straight up?
We've done both. We've made cocktails on the bar. It works pretty well in a traditional whiskey drink. Just substituted for whiskey.
So
Sounds like it's time to have a shot of beer schnapps.
I think it might be. And then I think also Terry and I need to spend another year trying to set up another interview so we can actually just do like a whole show on beer schnapps.
Yeah, right.
But it won't come until our third year because it obviously takes us way too long to make this happen. I certainly am going to need to try some of that because it's just very intriguing. Terry's leaving to get beer schnapps right now. My mind's not stuck on beer schnapps.
That's what's so fun about this place is you conceive of it, you think of it, and we make it happen.
Yeah, here you go. Do you do beer cocktails here too? Like, do you mix your in drink form for your patrons? Do you mix beer and alcohol?
We have, and we do, but we don't have it on a regular basis. It's something that I'm interested in exploring more, and I think my bar manager is as well. But we just haven't quite delved that deep into it. But yeah, we've definitely done a few things here and there.
We have a great show for you to listen to on beer cocktails if you want to. Ooh, they're two different colors.
The lighter colored one is our beer schnapps. That's what we actually distill from our beer in-house. So,
I'm just smelling right now.
Yeah, I think
just smelling.
The more traditional stuff in Germany is typically unaged, right, Eric?
Yeah, it's clear. It's fresh. So ours we distill and it's clear and fresh, and then we put it in a used bourbon barrel to age it out a little bit, and that was not traditional.
So that's the darker one.
No, that's the lighter one. So the darker one is actually the
okay.
bonfire spirit. So that is the collaboration with Sebago.
Yeah.
We distilled their Bonfire Rye, aged it in a fresh barrel, like a traditional whiskey would be. So the color's a little bit darker. It was in a barrel much longer than the beer schnapps. But you can see the difference in the color and definitely in the flavor of both of them.
So I have a question about the beer schnapps. We are going completely off the rails, and I hope everybody's okay with that, because I didn't even know these things existed. So you said that it was clear when it comes out? Is that
Everything's clear off the still, for the most part.
Really? So,
Yeah.
And do you use just one kind of beer to do it, or is it whatever you feel like doing?
We've used a bunch of different kinds, and it kind of just varies from what we have on hand or what we decide to use.
Yeah, so first some clarification on the color of alcohol. So alcohol by itself is a product, and alcohol is clear.
Huh.
So the color comes from other properties.
Other things, okay.
And when you distill something, but through heat, you're removing the alcohol from all the other stuff.
Okay. Yep, makes sense.
Makes sense.
You end up with like some container full of alcohol, and it's all clear.
Correct.
And
then what's left over is whatever the base was. So if, for instance, our light rum, we use a lot of cane sugar, evaporated cane juice, actually. And it's clear. The syrup's clear. And the wash is pretty clear. And we put that in, and we distill it off, and it's clear. For our aged rum, our dark rum, we want a little heavier base, so we use a blackstrap molasses, which is really dark and heavy. And we distill that, and it's clear. The distillate is clear because alcohol is clear. And then anything that has color in it is either added color after it's been distilled, which is a lot of the garbage product. And generally, garbage product because it's cheap.
neon green.
And yeah, it's neon green, or it says with caramel color added, or it's been aged in a barrel, and it picks up the color from the charcoal and the wood.
Okay, so you talked about like using molasses and cane sugar, and those are a liquid form. So I know that because I know beer, more or less, and I know that you end up with grain at the end. Spent grain, big stuff you have to find a farmer to take from you. But what kind of product is that darkness from the molasses? What is left? What does it look like?
It looks more or less the same. It's essentially boiled for 6 to 8 hours, so the volume's much less. You're extracting out the alcohol from it. It's just non-alcoholic at that point, basically, for the most part.
So it's this basic. It looks basically the same as what you started with. You mean? Okay. Can I take this as something that I might understand, and you can tell me if I'm completely wrong? So when I make like a balsamic reduction, all the steam comes out, and I'm left with a thicker balsamic reduction, I guess. I don't know. Is that kind of the same idea? Like all of the alcohol rises, and you just end up with a thicker of whatever you started?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty fair. I mean, it's not quite that thick and that reduced.
Yeah, it doesn't solidify.
But the idea is that steam that's evaporating is your liquid, your water. Your water is evaporating,
Right.
And that just dissipates in the air. So for us, it's the alcohol that's evaporating because we hold it at a lower temperature than water boiling point.
Okay.
So the water's staying back, but the alcohol is evaporating. But we're collecting that. Just as you could collect the water that would be evaporating off your or the steam.
Yeah,
and then it would,
you have to do stuff like that if you're trying to survive on a beach.
yeah, there you go. Yeah. Pretend you're, what is it, Castaway?
I think so. I don't know.
So yeah, that's the idea. Yeah.
Okay.
And, but all the water stays back, so it doesn't quite get that thick and syrupy because water will evaporate at boiling point or water boiling point. So alcohol boils at a lower boiling point.
All right, so let me see if I understand this, okay? So you have taken some of your beer and you put it into... You're already shaking your head now.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Terry's like shaking no for a minute, but that must be your thinking shake.
I guess.
So you take the beer out, you put it in the still, you boil it not quite to water boiling, but to alcohol boiling. That all comes out. What comes out is clear. What you gave me is not quite clear because you put it into a barrel.
Exactly.
Yes!
Got it.
You're brilliant.
No, I'm not. But I'm learning as I go. Okay, so it smells like my mouth is gonna fall off when I try it. Is this true?
So it's boozy. It's got some kick to it.
Okay.
And it should. I mean, that's the traditional beer schnapps is my experience having schnapps in Germany is you knock it back real quick and it's a little fiery burn and the locals kind of laugh at you. And but with our stuff, I feel the beer schnapps has aging it in the barrel helps mellow it out a little bit, softens it up a little bit. You get a little bit of that wood age character. It's subtle. But what I do find in this that's interesting is I feel like the citrusy notes from the hops come through. So it's kind of like a rough whiskey with a little citrus note.
Yeah, I actually sipped it and I didn't start crying. I didn't throw it back because I was trying to remember I have to drive an ugly minivan. But yeah, it's definitely something that I could drink, and that's not something I say about hard alcohol a lot. So I like it. I'm going to try this one, but before I do that, it makes sense for us to actually move right into our next round, which is we are changing the name to it being Campfire Stories, and I think Bonfire Rye.
Yeah, it kind of fits with that, right?
So I thought I'd try that as you guys were doing your first beer memories. You know, we've been drinking for a while. It's time to share some stories. I would like to know your first beer memory.
The first ones are all pretty rough.
you know, honestly, any beer memory that you want to share.
I guess my first brewing experience was homebrewing with my cousin. I was probably 15 or 16. He's a little bit older. And yeah, homebrewing and just making really, really terrible beer.
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
Yeah. And, you know, the brew in a box kits and making some really, really bad homebrew. Terrible sanitation, just bad, just bad all around, I guess. But it was fun, and it was a really cool process, and I definitely set the footstones for wanting to do it for, you know, my life.
Right, your turn.
Oh, I've got tons of memories that just my childhood is flashing before my eyes. Coors Light was my father's beer of choice, so that's what I was drinking. You know, I remember as a kid just having that first sip of ice cold Coors Light on a hot summer's day and just your eyes going wide at being so bitter but so sweet. And my parents just kind of laughing about it, and later on enjoying the bitterness of beer, and my parents actually allowing me to have non-alcoholic beer. They would buy non-alcoholic beer sometimes. Not sounds weird maybe because it sounds like they're promoting their son being an alcoholic, but not at all.
A non-alcoholic.
A non-alcoholic.
Yeah.
And then one of my best buddies and I, when we were a little older, maybe early teens, parents gone for the night, and we decided to steal one of the Coors Light. And I'm really freaked out thinking that my father has actually like counted them and he knows how many's there. And I mean, we're young, we're too young to be drinking, but hiding in the attic, sharing this beer, drinking as fast as we can.
Sharing one Coors
Light, crushing the can, hiding the can to smuggle it out, to throw it away so we would never get caught, and just being so scared that we were going to get caught. We never did, because obviously my dad didn't count his Coors Lights. And then later on, as we're old enough, which I think in most countries we're old enough to drink beer. Well, we were old enough to drink beer in most countries. In the U.S. we weren't, but through the high school days of going to parties and Allagash White had just come out. And so I would get my hands on 6-packs of Allagash White. And on the bottle, it showed you to swirl the yeast around and dump it into a wine glass. So I'd be at parties where kids are drinking, you know, Coors Light and Budweiser right out of the can or out of plastic Solo cups. And I would be searching whatever house party we're at. I'd be searching their cupboards for their parents' nice wine glass. And dump, you know, I'm 16, dumping bottles of Allagash White into their parents' nice wine glass and walking around. And, you know, people just giving me a real hard time for that. But that's where I got my taste from. Is I cut my teeth on Allagash White and then got interested in Belgian beers. And it's pretty good growing up in Maine at that time for sure.
Yeah, that's actually part of my plan to make sure that my kids don't drink too much in college, is to introduce them to really good beers so that when they go to college, they can't afford to drink. I mean,
can't afford to drink too much. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you can go out and have a couple, but you're not going to be the person at the party that is slamming back a 30-pack. Can't taste that stuff. That's my plan.
It's amazing right now seeing I call them kids, but, you know, 21-year-olds, hopefully 21, 22, 23-year-olds, our younger customers and they come into the Riot or they come into Novari, and they have had all the experience. They never had to drink crappy beer in high school or college. They know all the craft beer already, and you look at them, you say, you turned 21 last week. How do you know what Alambic is, and how do you know what Belgian quads are and double IPAs? And they're like, oh yeah, we've been drinking this for years. It's amazing. It's lucky.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's just amazing how many. I'm going to put myself in the older category right now. I'm not that old, but a lot of people that grew up, in the middle of nowhere, around my age, they only knew pretty crappy beer. And so a lot of people are like, oh, I don't really like beer. But you haven't tried it recently. And I think these kids that are coming up now, they don't have to struggle. The struggle is not there in terms of, growing up in the middle of nowhere with crappy beer.
Yeah, there's a lot of good beer accessible to a lot of people.
It really is.
I was lucky. My parents didn't drink, but my friend's parents did. And he would drink Negro Modelo and Sierra Nevada. That was just 2 beers. When he had Mexican food, he would drink his Negro Modelo. And when he was eating anything else, he'd drink his Sierra Nevada. And I would always go to his house, and I'd steal his beers out of his dad's fridge. And we'd go, same thing, go find the woods, go hide in the woods somewhere and drink a couple bottles of beer. But yeah, I was Sierra Nevada for sure. My first stolen beer.
First stolen beer. Okay, so we're going to move quickly into round 4. This is our last and final round, and it's one question for each of us, actually. And I have a bunch of questions on these cards right here. This is a new thing for our new year. And I am going to randomly choose one and ask Terry. Sure. And Terry, why don't you randomly choose one and ask Eric, and then Eric, you can ask me. We'll see how this goes. We're trying it out. Sometimes things change, all right? So, random. These are very random questions. You can't fail at these, hopefully. I probably will change that. Okay, so ready? This is pretty easy, actually.
Okay.
What's your favorite book?
Favorite book? That's a good one. There's a book called The Alchemist, which is an amazing book, Paulo Coelho. Yeah, it's short, but it's a really, really amazing book. I've read it like 5 or 6 times. It's like 130 pages, and you just like blow through in a day. But it's just a really, really amazing book about this little shepherd.
Oh.
And he travels the world and finds himself, if you will.
Excellent. We'll have to put that on the reading list. All right, so your turn to ask one of Eric.
All right. Eric, what is your biggest fear?
Well, man, how deep, dark
I
do you
know,
want to
right?
get? I've got kids. I've got 2 daughters. Like, just I'll put that out there. There's a lot of fear there with having, that you've got a little
I got a little
girl.
kid too, yeah.
I've got 2 daughters as well.
You've got 2 daughters, yeah.
Yeah.
So bringing kids into this world, and that's scary. But you can't let it get to you. So my biggest fear, I would say, is failure in my businesses, because of not just for me, for my own personal ego, but because how proud I am to be able to provide opportunities for so many people. People like Terry that he might have had this opportunity somewhere else, but he came in right from the ground, and like I said, he helped build this place, and then he helped manage the bar and run the bar, and now he's helping in the brewery and distillery, and he's getting a ton of experience. And I'm happy to think that I'm also helping to provide for his family through his paycheck. He's able to raise his daughter, who's running around behind us. And I look around my other staff, and I've got close to 50 employees between both businesses. And a lot of them are married, and a lot of them have children or spouses or significant others or whoever. So it's not just myself that I'm providing for. I'm also providing opportunities and livelihood for other people. So I think the biggest fear, for some reason, if these businesses failed and to lose, or not me losing, but for all of them to have lost something. And hopefully that doesn't happen, but that's a fear for sure.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. That's a lot of employees that you have.
A lot of employees. It's a lot of people, and as I said, it's not just them. It's also their significant others and their children or whoever they're also taking care of. It's pretty heavy.
It is a little heavy.
But they all get beer. They all get shift drinks. They all get discounts on food and drink, and it makes things happy. We just had an amazing staff party last night.
So many lobsters.
So many lobsters.
So many lobsters.
So we get to have fun.
Okay, good.
All right, so final question. I'm not allowed to look at them, right? I was just going to I was going to look through all of them.
You were. I saw that.
Final question. Here it is. If you could live anywhere, where would it be?
So Maine summers are amazing, and it'd be really hard to give them up, and really, really hard to give up the beer scene here, because where I would really love to live, actually, has a really crappy beer scene. So that would be really sad for me to go like backwards in time. But I would love to live like on a Caribbean island in a treehouse right on the ocean. Like, I want to be able to like scuba dive and throw spears to catch fish. like have little, my daughters both have blonde hair. I just want them to have like little tiny baby blonde dreads and be just sandy but Maine summers are really hard to give up. Maine winters, I'm done. I'm done. But yeah, so that would be.
You could always ferment coconut juice.
Ooh, there you go. See, we just have to talk first, and then I can go.
Collaboration, coconut juice ferments.
Exactly. I can send you some fermented coconut juice, and you can send me some stuff. We can do some crazy collaborations. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Well worth the year that it took to put this together. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so very much for being part of this.
Thanks for inviting us and being part of this.
Yeah, so exciting. So thanks. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. And cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you so much to Eric and Terry for sitting down with me for a great conversation, some tasty beer, and spirits. If you were looking for the field notes from this episode, head over to greatbeeradventure.com/055. I urge you all to go out and find your own great beer adventure this week. How about trying a beer that is a collaboration brew? If you do, grab a pic of it and tag us on Instagram @GreatBeerAdventure. I'll share a few of them on my feed so we can all learn more together. The gents from Liquid Riot and I are working on a special little something, so be sure to keep your ear out for that. If you all are fabulous co-adventurers would like to support the show, check out our Patreon page. For less than the cost of a beer, you can show us some love. Go to greatbeeradventure.com/support. Today's episode was produced by Frank Marvici of Marvici Media. Great Beer Adventure is part of the Great Pint Society. Cheers.